Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is a new series that I'm starting, going over a lot of the stuff that has to do with building custom pools, building these custom hardscapes and landscapes that I build. So a little bit about myself. My name is Roberto de Leon, based in Long Beach, California. I'm 28 years old right now. I have my C27 landscape license and I have my C53 swimming pool contractor's license. So I started my business. I think it's been 7 or 8 years that I've started it. I started when I was 20 or 21, and I dropped out of college dropout. I went for about a month, dropped out, went straight into working for my dad. So my dad also has a company, but he only does like lawn maintenance, landscaping jobs, tree trimming jobs. That's what he does. He doesn't do hardscape or swimming pools, nothing like that, right? So went straight to working with him. Fresh college dropout, got thrown right into the mix, and I helped him run his business for I think almost 3 years. And that's when I saw a video like this that really spoke to me, and it really made me want to start my own company. And I tried doing jobs together with my dad, but he had been in business since like the 80s, 1980s, and he was already well established, well off. My dad has rental properties. He didn't need me, so to say, but I did add value. So I started running ads. I started getting little jobs here and there, and my dad and I would do them together, but the jobs started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It slowly progressed from like small landscape jobs into hardscape jobs, into concrete, into bigger jobs and bigger jobs. And keep in mind, I was still running a portion of my dad's business, and the incoming jobs, I would sell them, or we would sell them together, and I couldn't detach myself from the portion of his business I was running. So the projects we would sell together, my dad would do them with one of his other crews, with his install crew, and I was running a portion of the landscape division, of the maintenance division, sorry. And it really got me upset because I wanted to be a part of the installs. I would sell the jobs, I would design them, and I wanted to build it. But how I was busy running the other portion of his business, he had his other crew do it, and it would bother me, and I told him a couple of times that I wanted to get thrown into that division, and he didn't want me to stop what I was doing because I was really efficient at it, and he really needed me there. But the problem is that that's where I wanted to be. That's what I loved doing, was the installs, and it wasn't working out. So I stopped working for him. It wasn't an easy decision. It wasn't easy between him and I. There was friction at first, and I feel like in a way he was kind of upset, not with me, but just upset at the situation. That I'm his son, I was helping him out, and then now I don't help him out. But I feel like after we went through that, my relationship with him got a lot better. It was good before, but it's not what it is now. There's a lot of mutual respect. And before, I can tell he just saw me as a young kid, that was just trying to get his feet wet and whatever he can get his hands on. So yeah, that's a little bit of background on myself. How I got into pools, this is very important. I think, but what I want to touch on first before I start getting into the custom hardscape and custom pools is, if you're one of the people that are watching this right now, you're in high school or you're in college right now, and you don't know what you want to do with your life. You don't know what you want to get into. Maybe what you're studying, you don't have a passion for it anymore. That is exactly where I was. Okay, in middle school and high school, I took so many engineering classes, and that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to get into that kind of stuff. So I've always had kind of like a thing for design, like for creating stuff. I've always kind of liked doing that. And in high school, that's when I really, I couldn't decide if I wanted to go to college or if I wanted to go straight into business. And I was stuck for a very long time. I think all of my junior year and senior year was pretty much just me on the fence about what career I wanted to take, And I ended up deciding on giving college a try. I went to City College. I went to Long Beach City College right here at Long Beach City, LBCC. And I went for 2 months and I couldn't take it. I really couldn't take it. I dropped out, and that's when I started working for my dad. So fast forward, that was back in 2000, I think 15 or 16 when I started college. Fast forward a couple years, it's 2018, middle of 2018, late 2018. That's when I started Pinewood right here. Pinewood is progressed into Pinewood Design now, but it was a Pinewood Landscape. So I started the business and I failed. Okay, I failed at a couple of things. So I've always been good, kind of like a natural salesman, or I've always been passionate about landscaping. So it's never really hard for me to sell landscaping in any kind of way. So I think I sold like 3 or 4 jobs. Like I secured 3 or 4 jobs, right? And that's what I used when I stopped working for my dad. I had those 3 or 4 jobs already secured. So I did those. I had 2 employees, and we did all the work, and I ran out of work. I ran out. So, I spoke with my dad. So we were on speaking terms again. Okay, after I did these jobs, we were on speaking terms again, and I told him, dude, I ran out of work. I don't know what to do. So I don't remember exactly what happened. I think he helped me out with a couple of small jobs, like 1 or 2 projects. But after that, that's when I started getting traction with running ads. And keep in mind, this was Yelp. This was Yelp from years ago. Yelp now is completely something different, And we'll get into that a little bit later. But I just got traction. I got traction from Yelp, running ads, smaller jobs. And those smaller jobs eventually started getting into bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger jobs. So we went from landscaping to big landscaping jobs, to someone wanting only like a fire pit and landscaping, then somebody wanting a landscape with pergola, then someone wants a whole backyard. And that's when the pandemic hit, which was 2020, I believe. Yeah, late 2019, early 2020. So when that came around, I was already, I kind of had a name for myself in my city, but I was known as a landscaper. And I think I was doing a couple of big jobs when the whole thing happened with COVID. No, sorry, let me backtrack. So I had contracts ready to go, right? And when everything happened, when the lockdown started, the contracts all canceled on me. They all canceled. All of them. It came to the point where I had 2 days left of work, and I had 2 appointments coming in the next couple of days. And I remember having the conversation with my employees that I had at the time, and I let them know what happened. I said, hey, I don't know what's gonna happen with this. There's lockdowns. The client's canceled contract, but I have some appointments, and I'm gonna do everything I can to try and close those deals. So I did. I closed those deals, and then sure enough, everybody knows what happened under COVID. Closed the deals, interest rates dropped, and the market just took off. Boom, explosion. So much work during COVID. Everybody knows that COVID was not anything normal. That environment, the amount of work is not normal. That's not a normal economy. Okay, that's when interest rates are super low and when everybody's stuck in their backyards. Will we see that again? I don't know. We might see low interest rates again, but everybody's stuck at home and not being able to go out. Probably not in our lifetime. Maybe, never say never. But so there was all this work, right? And all the high-end contractors that already had names established for themselves, those guys got super busy during COVID. So what happened was homeowners started looking for other contractors that were actually booked out a year or 2 years in advance. Someone that can actually jump on their project, that can start it. And that is how I landed my first pool remodel. So it was a pretty big job. It was up in the Rancho Palos Verdes area. I think the total on it was 200. I would say it was like 210 or 220. 220,000. It was a full gut of the backyard. Full remodel of the pool, plumbing, plaster, coping tile, a sick outdoor kitchen, a fireplace, concrete and turf everywhere, patio cover, that was my first pool remodel job. That's how I got into it. I got into pools by doing pool remodels. And honestly, that project, we knocked it out of the park. And from that one project, this is why it's so important to market, to post what you're doing. It's very, very important. So from that one project, I recorded a lot of content with this right here. Just one of these, a phone. No professional cameras, no camera crews. I recorded so much process, like so many things at that project. And off of that one, my Instagram just blew up. It took my company page, my Pinewood design page. I had like not even 1,000 followers. Pushed it to above 100,000, and then eventually above 200,000 from one job. And that's just posting what was going on at that project. Keep in mind though, it was a pretty sick design. It was a very badass layout for the backyard that I designed. And that's what got a lot of attention. From that one project, it just snowballed. We just started getting a lot more full property remodels, front yard, backyard, more swimming pools, new swimming pools. That's where we are now. My company this year, I believe, will probably do 3 million in sales. Right now, I'm working on 9. We have 9 designs that involve pools, full backyards or either full property. And the total for all of the estimates on like the total revenue that would be generated if we get all of those projects, I think it's around 1.6 or 1.7 million that we're working on. That if we can, we'll close before the end of the year, and we'll probably be close to 3.2 million in sales for this year. Maybe even close to 4, to be honest with you. But I really want to talk about is along the journey, you encounter adversity, you encounter problems, and you're going to encounter that no matter what you choose to do with your life. Whether you want to get into, whether you don't want to get into landscape and hardscape, whether you want to get into something else, into plumbing, into general contracting, into electricians, or something completely different. It doesn't have to be blue collar. You're going to face adversity in some type of way. You're going to face some type of problem, some bullshit. Something is going to come up. And what I want to say is, as a human being, you have to choose what you want to deal with. You choose the shit you want to go through. So, I could have stayed in college. I could have, got my engineering degree. Who knows where I would be now? I can tell you that even if I would have stayed in college, I would have gone through some type of adversity, some type of problems, personal problems, finance problems, whatever it is. But I would much rather deal with problems of owning your own business compared to problems that you would encounter, not having a business. What are some of those examples? Some of the things that I face every day is my workers making mistakes, dealing with clients. Sometimes, you get clients that are really picky. Some are hard to deal with. Running out of work, payroll, overhead. I have a house. I just bought another house right now down the street. I have 2 houses. Maintenance on them, investing. I would much rather deal with my problems that I have now as a business owner, as a custom pool builder, custom backyard designer, whatever you want to call it. I would rather be doing this than dealing with, with not having money to pay the bills, staying in an apartment where I know I'm not happy. And these are just my opinions. These are just my personal opinions. I'm not trying to project on you in any way. I'm just giving you my opinion. I wouldn't want to be driving around some old dusty truck. I have it's a 2021 Ram 2500 diesel, deleted Laramie on 37s with KMCs, paid off. I left that off. I almost left that out. I think it's paid off. 0 debt. All my machines are paid off. My ditch witch, my excavator, that's paid off. I got a new little hybrid truck for my estimates when I'm designing. I would much rather deal with problems of owning a business than, like I said, not having money, stressing about the rent, stressing about all this other stuff. And the path you choose to take will determine where you end up in life. You know, down the line, 30, 40 years. If I would have stuck to an engineering degree, sure, I could have been very successful in that as well, because I'm very entrepreneurial. You know, I'm a very go-getter type of person. That's just my personality. I become obsessive with stuff. Sure, I could have became successful in that industry as well. I don't know how, but you know, I stuck to landscaping and blue collar because it's what I grew up doing my entire life. Worked with my dad when I was a little kid. I just grew up doing it my entire life. I've never had job, you know, outside of landscaping. This is all I know. I live and breathe this. It's my passion. I make a lot of good money doing it. And that's something I really want to touch on is investing. You know, there's not a lot of contractors that talk about investments, that talk about retirement or other, you know, assets that also generate income, because your company is an asset. You know, my company, Pinewood Design, it's an asset. It generates income. It generates cash flow. You know, that's the name of the game, cash. What can you do with your cash? So I bought this house, okay? Got it at a good price because it was in distress. I put some work into it, made it look nice, did my backyard. I'm buying my neighbor's house, also in distress, getting it for even cheaper than what I got this house. And that one's bigger. That one's a 3-bed, 2-bath. This one's a 2-1, but this one has a bigger lot. So nobody talks about what to do once you get your money, okay? Everybody, I feel like, gets stuck in the rat race of being a contractor, because it's not easy, right? It's not easy being a contractor. You have sales, designs, like I said, managing your guys, managing the actual job sites, billing, invoicing, all of that stuff. It's not easy being a contractor, especially if you do custom builds, like the stuff that I do. You know, selling it is half the work. You still gotta go build it. You know, you still gotta go build a $500,000 pool, backyard. You know, that's insane. You know, imagine building a $500,000 backyard. All the mental stress, all the effort that goes into it. So people get stuck in that. They just get stuck in staying busy. You know, where's my next job gonna come from? They don't solve the little problems in their business. I would consider one of those problems marketing. If you don't have a solid marketing team, you're not gonna have a steady income or steady inflow of leads, which is a problem. You see, because then you're gonna have to go from project management to then scrambling to try and find more work. I didn't do it intentionally, but this is pretty much, you know, how I've handled my business or what's happened since I've started. I solved the problem of leads through social media, through generating on social media. Solved that problem. Also keeping track of the money. Once you start doing these projects, you need to keep track of the money. You need to do job costing. You need to do spreadsheets. You need to understand finances. You need to be smart. You know, you can't just buy all this freaking overhead and then you're stuck with all these payments. You can't do that. You need to be really smart about your income and about your expenses too. So it was marketing, job costing, sales, design, okay? These are the two that I'm on right now. These are the two systems that I'm creating. So I've recently hired a salesperson for my company. And let me tell you, it is probably one of the best decisions I've made since I've started my company. I'm not even lying. I have an in-house designer and I have an in-house salesperson. So this salesperson, they help me obviously with sales. They help me with, you know, a little bit with designs. But when you start having like a large crew, okay, like I do, I have total of people that work in and around my organization. It's more than 20 people. And you need to keep all those people busy, okay? So you can imagine, to keep that many people busy, how much you need to sell, how, you know, the mental power you need to keep track of all that stuff, to even keep track of the leads, to keep track of what part of the sales cycle the lead is in. You need all those systems before you can even think about growing a landscape company. That is where I'm at right now, is those systems are in place. And now what I'm doing is I'm reaping the benefits of all of the hard work I've put in the last 7 to 8 years. You know, all of the stress, all of the late nights, all of the times, you know, that I faced adversity. You know, almost on a daily basis, you're going to face some type of adversity when you're a business owner. And that's just the harsh truth. That's what it is. If you want to make money, you got to deal with bullshit. It's as simple as that. You know, you can go get a college degree and go deal with some other type of bullshit, but you're probably only going to make 80 to 100 grand a year. That's nothing. You know, by the time you get taxed, the government's going to take half. Honestly, what are you going to be left with? 70 grand, 80 grand to live on a year? You know, how much is rent nowadays? Rent is like $1,800, $2,000 for an apartment. You know, I really encourage you guys, build a business. You can make a lot of cash from it. Before I get too far sidetracked, is contractors, you got to invest your money. You have to be smart with it. Don't go buy. If you have 100 grand saved, 100 grand cash to your name, you can say is yours 100%. I know so many guys that will go and buy a truck, a Raptor R, or a Razor or something, you know, instead of buying assets that can hold and store value or even generate income. For example, I almost bought a Raptor R before I got this house. Okay, I even went to the dealership, I looked at them, I didn't test drive it, I just saw them, and I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, I'm about to put 30 to 40 grand down for this truck. My payment is still going to be $1,800. This truck will do nothing for me. Really, it won't really do anything. It's not even going to hold value. It's going to lose value. And the less I use it, the more it's going to hold value. So what's the point? You know, sure, it looks nice. I can afford one. I can afford one, no problem. You know, if you do the math, when I had all of my payments still for my machines, my truck, I was paying $6,000-7,000 a month, which is easily a Lambo payment. Now I don't have any payments. I have one payment from one of my trucks. It's like $500 a month. So I almost bought the Raptor R, but I made the smart choice of just waiting. I said, you know what, wait. Maybe some opportunity will be thrown my way. And sure enough, bought my fucking neighbor's house at a great price. $600K in Los Angeles, in the Long Beach area. It's a very, very good price. The one right across the street sold for like $830,000. You know, so I'm already, just by buying it, I'm walking into equity. I can fix it, sell it. I'll make over 100 grand on a flip, which is, you know, that's great. It's great money. That's awesome. So if you're watching this, you're a contractor, or you're thinking about becoming a contractor, work your butt off. Absolutely work your butt off. Save the cash. Save it. Because some opportunity will present itself, and you need to be ready. Because, you know, whether it's a house or whether it's some type of other asset that you can buy that can generate income, and, you know, another business someone might sell you, or if you want to get into crypto or want to get into stocks, if that's your thing, you need money for that. And just because your business is generating you money, you know, it doesn't mean you have to go blow it on dumb stuff. Just don't. We work way too hard to blow our money on, you know, on stuff that's gonna lose value. Why would you buy something that's gonna lose so much value? It's gonna go to zero. Don't be scared. People are gonna talk bad about you when you start a business. You know, a lot of my uncles would talk bad about me. They still do to this day. It doesn't matter to me. You know, it doesn't matter to me. I see it as fuel. I really do. But, you know, I'm living proof. I have 2 classifications on my contractor's license. I build badass pools. I have 2 properties. My shit's paid off. I have a hot wife. You know, get your ass to work, honestly. That's all I can say. Get to work. Work smart. You're gonna be faced with problems. It is what it is. I'm not making this video to tell you that it's easy. I'm making this video, you know, what did I start off with? I said, life is hard. No matter what you decide to do with your life, you're gonna face problems. It's gonna be a hard life. There's always gonna be problems. Nothing is easy. We were put on this planet to learn, to become the best version of ourselves. And how does that happen? How do you learn? You learn through pain. You learn through going through bullshit. That is how you learn. That is how I learned. Going through those growing pains, going through the bullshit. That is how you learn. So next time you're thinking about what you want to do with your life, just know that no one's going to come to save you. Nobody can change your life but yourself. You're the only person that can make a change for the better. I'm not going to come and grow your business for you. I'm not going to come and start that business for you. Your dad's not going to. Your girl's not going to do that for you. Your man's not going to do that for you. So take initiative and take massive action, because this world is not friendly, okay? The bills are always going to stack up. You're always going to have bills. You want to have financial freedom. You don't want to be in your 50s, 60s with no assets, no income producing assets, no nice truck, no boat, no ranch you can go to. You know, who doesn't want that stuff? Who doesn't want all that stuff? Start your business. All right, I'm gonna wrap up this video with this. Just straight raw business advice for contractors, okay? If you want to stand out, just do what you say you're gonna do as a contractor, okay? As long as you do that, you're gonna stand out from 90% of these guys, okay? Most of these guys in the industry, they overpromise, underdeliver. They don't know how to set expectations. That is probably the most important thing, is learning how to set an expectation with the homeowner. You don't want to promise them the world or promise them you'll be done by a certain date, or you're going to have the estimate ready by tomorrow and you don't. You don't want to make yourself look bad. Set it up in a way that you make yourself look really, really, really good. It's that simple. You know, I've dealt with contractors with subs that they tell me they're going to be my electrician. He says, I'll be there Thursday. Thursday comes around, guy doesn't show up. I call him. Oh yeah, I didn't have time to go. I'll go Friday or Saturday. You know how bad you look when you do that kind of stuff? You know, I had another electrician. I stopped using him. I started using this guy. Since I've started using this new guy, you know, I've kept him very busy. I've had a job for him almost every week. Every week he has a job, he has a job, he has a job. When you start doing stuff like that, it makes the person hiring you no longer have confidence in you. There's already thoughts in my head about looking for someone else because of what he's doing. I don't want to look like a jackass to the homeowner, telling them someone's gonna be there, and then they don't show up. You know, so stand out. It's not hard. It is really not hard. A lot of these contractors are asleep at the wheel. They don't even follow up. They send some bullshit estimates with no description. They don't even go over the warranties. They email the estimates over. They don't even offer designs. They don't go over the estimate with the homeowner. You know how much you'll stand out if you get a little printer like this, print out the estimate, drive over to the client's house, come into their house and go over the quote with them, or through Zoom. You know how much you'll stand out, how much confidence they're gonna have in you, in your product. That's what Home Depot does. Whenever you go to Home Depot and they have those salespeople there that want to sell you solar, they come to your house fucking 8 or 9 p.m. They're at your dining room table with you, going over the estimate, going over the project. You know, that's who you're competing with. That's the type of stuff that I do. That's who you're gonna compete with. So if you think you can get by just doing the bare minimum in your business and in your life, you are in for a very, very, very rude awakening. Very rude awakening. Because I can tell you right now, it's not pretty. I see guys that have been in business 10 years, 15 years, that they didn't decide to grow their business. They kind of just stayed where they were at. They're okay with just getting by, doing the bare minimum. And in business, you can't stay small. You cannot, because you're gonna be faced, even if you're not growing your business, you're gonna face some type of problem, some type of adversity. It's gonna come your way, okay? And if you're small and you don't have the money to absorb these type of problems or whatever it is, you know, it gets ugly. I see it. I know guys that go through bullshit all the time that have small businesses and they're struggling. You need to grow your business. You need to stand out. You need to start a business. If you're watching this, you don't have a business, start your business, okay? I'm living proof. I was an average C student throughout all of middle school, throughout all of high school. I think the highest GPA I got was like a 3.0 my junior year of high school, or junior or senior year. I've always been a straight C student, honestly. But, you know, I love business, honestly. If you're here, if you've watched this video to the end, you're part of the 1% that really want to do something with their life. So I do have a masterclass coaching group on Facebook where I go in depth on everything that has to do with my business. I actually show profit numbers, how much I profit on these jobs, how much I spent, estimates, marketing, my marketing strategies, all of that I show in this masterclass group. And there's meetups, so you get to come, and the meetups are free. You come out here, you go tour my job sites, see all the shit that I build. You can ask me any questions, and you also get direct access to me if you're a part of the masterclass. You can ask me questions. We got lives in there. I do all sorts of stuff in there that's really cool, very in-depth on business. If you want to sign up, link is in the description. It's $100 a month.